Wow, the Love is War confession arc was so good. It was amazing to see after all the build-up. Surely it can't get any better than this, especially not the arc right after. Oh my fucking god. This shit is peak. Now I love Love is War. It was actually my second anime ever. If you're wondering what the first one was, it was Psyche K, which I don't plan on making a video on, so my bad to anyone who wanted that. What drew me to Love is War is I heard that was a rom-com that did the rom better than anyone and the com better than anyone too. And I logically thought that, sounds pretty good. To no one's surprise, it was really good. Kaguya-sama is one of my favorite shows of all time. It does comedy like no other show does, pulls off really stupid romance, and the characters are all so fun and relatable. The confession arc had some of the best payoff ever, but the arc right after the confession arc, the movie arc, or as I'll call it in this video, Ice Kaguya, is one of the greatest arcs ever, and is certainly Love is War's greatest arc. As always, before getting to the main event, we have to do a little refresher. Love is War is a rom-com about Miyuki Shirogane and Kaguya Shinomiya, the president and vice president of the Shuuchin Academy Student Council, along with their secretary Chika Fujiwara, their treasurer Yu Shigami, and later on their auditor Miko Ino. So I know this happens a lot in anime, but why do the student councils have so much power? And Kaguya-sama, they plan and do everything. In Origairo, they did the same thing. I don't know if it's a Japan thing, but here in America, I don't even know who's in my student council. That aside, we follow these group of relatable dumbasses for the entire show, and I don't need to tell you guys how fun of a ride it really was. Whether it be Chika tutoring Shirogane, Ishigami wanting to kill himself, Kagi having red receipts on, or my personal favorite, Shirogane and Chika putting on a rap concert.
I change myself like I change my shirt. I'm a one-tooth guy, not a two-faced jerk. Slide it in the first place like it's home plate. My non-fiction's on stop because I write it every day.
But for our purposes, we really have to go over two quick things. The Firework Festival arc at the end of Season 1, and the Confession arc at the end of Season 3. The Firework Festival arc is really important as it's really the first instance where we see how Kaguya's background has really affected her, and it's one of the first big examples of Shirogane going all out. For Kaguya's background, she was raised under the Shinomiya family, and did not have any parents practically, being taken care of mainly by Hayasuka. The Shinomiya family is a financial giant, and Kaguya was therefore not raised traditionally. She had very strict rules to follow and is incredibly sheltered. She was even allowed to see the fireworks show with her friends, but in the arc, she finally rebelled against those rules to see it anyway, and the one to help her see those fireworks was Shirogane himself, by going all out and going full hero mode as we'll be very accustomed to seeing. Kaguya is so amazed by his efforts that she didn't even look at the fireworks and just look at Shirogane instead. This right here is very important to understand. Shirogane does not ever give less than 100% in anything he ever does, which is a big reason why Kaguya was so attracted to him. It was only fitting that for the confession arc, the big culmination for the whole story so far, Shirogane goes as all out as possible, because this arc is when he realized the cultural festival was the last chance he'd have to confess to Kaguya, because he's going to Stanford. So the war of love he's had with Kaguya would finally have to end. And I really meant it when I said he would go all out, because look at this shit, man. Mystery Man's a riddle to go to the clock tower? Hundreds of balloons? Damn. The confession arc was overall just amazing and a perfect confession arc for the story. It's so incredibly absurd and over the top, but that's what makes it so good. Kaguya kissing Miyuki is one of the best moments ever because of the payoff of 30 plus episodes of Will They Won't They. So you would think that now after this, these two would be in a happily ever after scenario and they both go to California together and are together forever. And you would be right, but not just yet, because these two would have one last hurdle to get over, and that would be in the Ice Kaguya arc. The Ice Kaguya arc will start with Kaguya herself being so overwhelmed with happiness, she crashes herself out and becomes Chibi Kaguya for a little bit, which I think everyone could agree is great. Another example of the show being so good at going from an incredibly emotional moment to an incredibly hilarious moment. Just like right after the Firework arc, Shirogane was freaking out about being a cringe lord and thinking Kaguya hated him now, but in fact it was the complete opposite. Man, this show is funny. Unfortunately, this arc would not be too comedy focused, but when there is, it is hilarious as always. The important part of the first part is Kaguya's inner self's battle for control. There's Chibi Kaguya, current Kaguya, baby Kaguya, and the important one, Ice Kaguya. Ice Kaguya was how Kaguya was in the very beginning, before the events of the show even took place. She gained the name the Ice Princess because of how cold she was to everyone. She was very isolated and pushed people away. But this was not due to her being an asshole. It was out of necessity due to her family life and to protect people around her. Ice Kaguya was very reflective of how the Shinomiya family did things, and Kaguya would tend to hurt people unintentionally early on in her life. So that's why she developed this cold persona. But after she joined the student council, she became a lot more comfortable in her ice cold persona and began to thaw out to the Kaguya Shinomiya we're so familiar with. And because of her mental breakdown that occurred because of the utter craziness of what happened in that confession arc, her ice persona came in control again. So what would happen is that Ice Kaguya would attempt to get Shirogane to do lovey-dovey stuff, and well, it doesn't go the greatest. The first half of this arc, though, was some classic Love is War comedy.
No! Please don't jump to conclusions that I was just about to invite you too! For a threesome? Of course not! I'm having a party, so I'm inviting a lot of people! An orgy!
And while reading the comedic part, it also established a clear, let's say, confusion that the confession left the two of Miyuki and Kaguya, only amplifying it by Ice Kage coming out, which to Shirogane was a huge shock, because he thinks they're practically dating, because, you know, they kiss, and it was a steamy one too.
Couldn't help but give him a smooch.
So for Kaguya to act as cold as she's ever been after that took a toll on him. Now a complaint some of you may be having is that after 3 seasons and the confession arc, we still have to wait to see them together, and I get that. The story's a very long will they won't they. But that's what makes this arc so genius. First of all, the very long will they won't they makes this final obstacle a lot more relatable. Because think about it, if you had this long journey let's call it with someone through a high school and you guys confess, of course the first thing you think about now is, well, what now? You spent all that time doing that and you finally succeeded. But what are you gonna do now? How are you gonna make sure this goes well? Will it even go well? I mean, I'm sure I would think that. Not that I have personal experience, but I think it's a safe assumption. And second off, it makes even more sense when you consider who Kaguya Shinomi and Miyuki Shirogane are. As said before, Kaguya Shinomi did not live a normal childhood, and still doesn't live a normal life per se. Raised to be cold and heartless, that's how she was for a lot of her life, until she met people that showed her that she didn't have to be like that. She spent the whole story being a different person with her friends and to get with Shirogane. But that cold side never left her as shown by her return. She was always there, just hidden away. Shirogane himself isn't innocent either when it comes to hiding away his personality. He is notorious for giving 120% at all times no matter what. And that was shown especially when he was trying to get with Kaguya. It originated with his obsession with the grades that got him on par with Kaguya to begin with. This obsession was due to his mother leaving him at a very young age and him believing that it was his fault that she left. So he had to work so much harder to hide and minimize those weaknesses he thought he had, which isn't very healthy in the long run. His trademark tired eyes are shown throughout the show that come from his insane sleep deprivation from working so hard. And the one time he didn't have those eyes, Kaguya was shown to be kinda losing interest. She was very attracted to those tired eyes. It's actually a very important thing to remember, so remember it. So these two individuals have a lot of baggage with them that's still unresolved, so it only makes sense for them to overthink and complicate things even more after the confession arc. And now let's segue here. Kaguya really wanted Miyuki to kiss her again, but it didn't go as planned. Ice Kaguya is in fact pretty cold and Shirogane couldn't handle it. But these next few moments after this is some of the best storytelling and character work you will ever see in anything. It is an absolute emotional gut punch that you would not expect. As Kaguya is in the hospital saying Miyuki is unconscious, she breaks down.
But those ugly things make me who I am. And since nobody could ever like them, I have to keep all of those parts hidden away.
This side of Kaguya was the one to fall in love with Shirogane in the first place. It was also the side that was hidden away throughout the show and everything that happened. Ice Kaguya was always there throughout the whole show, and now that she and Shirogane are at this stage, it's something that she can't hide away anymore even though she wants to so much. Because when she did put the mask away in return, Shirogane ended up in a hospital. So she obviously thinks he would never love her if she kept this persona, that the quote-unquote cutesy and nice Kaguya is the only one that Shirogane would ever love. But those other personas reminded her that she is still as Kaguya as they are, and that she shouldn't hide. She wanted that kiss and she will get it. And when that happens, there will be...
I just die from the happiness overload.
which gave her a resolve to keep going as Ice Kaguya and to accept that she is as Kaguya and as important as her other sides, and to truly open up to Shirogane and not hide away any part of her, as that's really what's so beautiful about a relationship, to truly open up to the one you love so much. And that's also what makes this arc so good. It's about being able to accept every part of you and take those masks off when you're with that one person you care so much about. Kaguya was able to do that here, but Shirogane on the other hand is very stubborn and not accepting that. As said before, he made his name by going all out and not giving himself any breaks. He got Kaguya to like him back and confess by being that. So he thinks that's the only way to keep Kaguya, by continuing to be this workaholic, keeping that mask on and covering what he thinks is a useless loser underneath that workaholic mask. But let's really think about Shirogane throughout the show. Love is War does an amazing job of tying their comedic gags into deep character moments. We see it with Kaguya's upbringing, Ishigami's self-deprecation, and Ino's love for Rule, for example. They're all something that's played off for laughs, but when shined a spotlight on, it's also something that can hit really deep. Shirogane's character is no different. I talked about the gag with his tired eyes, and that's a really important example, because in that example, Kaguya was thinking that she was losing interest when Shirogane didn't have those eyes. Those tired eyes attracted her so much, implying that Shirogane has to keep it up for her to remain interested in him. But there are other notable examples of this. this. Whenever a big test came up, he was shown to be studying unhealthily obsessively. At first, we think it's nothing more than a funny gag showing that he works comically hard, but over the course of the story, we learn why. Shirogane's mom leaving him made him believe he wasn't good enough, which made him push himself at such a young age. But this was even more amplified when he made a name for himself when he outscored Kaguya in the test. This really put him on the map for everything and only told him he has to keep it up. The little gag of him studying really has so many underlying factors beneath it. The gag is a mask, if you will. Another gag that shows Shirogane's unhealthy work habits is the gag of Chika tutoring with everything. Not only are these moments absolutely hilarious, it shows us that Shirogane really is very untalented in almost every aspect, and he works very hard to get over that obstacle. Even for what seems to be the most dumb and pointless things, he pushes and pushes himself. That's who he is, or at least who he wants to be and who he thinks he has to be. So even when people tend to calm down, and even when Kaguya realizes to accept herself more, he cannot. He still has not realized that Kaguya would still love him if he just opened up. And all this will climax to the final part of this arc. The final part is really the second big climax of the story aside from the Clock Tower confession. Kaguya is determined to show every side of the Shirogane, to not only open up to Shirogane, but hopefully open Shirogane up to her, so they can finally truly start their relationship and love each other like they've wanted for so long. To see her finally think like this and truly open up and confess after all this time is so satisfying to watch. We really see how much she has grown through just this arc and throughout the entire story as well. But Shirogane is still stubborn about not doing that and continuing the persona that he has held up for the entire show. So these conflicting goals would meet on Christmas, because who doesn't love a romance Christmas arc? Seriously, why are all the romance Christmas arcs so good? Kaguya and Miyuki would go to Chika's house to exchange presents and for a Christmas party in general. And we haven't had much comedy in a bit, so who better to lighten the mood than the Fujiwaras?
And who might you be?
New Year's Eve in Santa!
Why the heck does your family mash up Christmas and New Year's?
We get a classic love is war skit theme in the gift exchange process. What's really important here is the present between Miyuki and Kaguya. Miyuki, of course, way overthought this and tried to get the greatest present to ever exist. And for the group gift exchange, he got a handkerchief, which is very unextraordinary. You might be thinking, well, for Kaguya specifically, he surely chose something very extravagant and over the top. And well, you wouldn't be right. He chose one of those hammer ball toys. I don't know what they're called still. And while this isn't glamorous, let's just say, so Shirogane does his very best to not give the present to Kaguya. And we have officially arrived at the best part of this arc. Kaguya and Miyuki finally confront each other about everything that's gone on. Kaguya tells Miyuki everything about how she wants him to open up, how she believes true perfection in the one you love, see weaknesses and all, how she has shown what she believed to be her own weaknesses. Again, seeing Kaguya be this assertive is so nice to see after everything. It goes to show how accepting all parts of herself made her grow so much. But Miyuki isn't quite there yet. He very adamantly still believes he has to hide his weaknesses, and that it isn't fair as he never saw Ice Kaguya as a weakness of hers. He knew she developed that persona to protect people and not to hurt them and admire her for it. His weakness on the other hand was different. He works so hard because he believes he's so quote unquote uncool as he puts it, and especially if it's for someone close to him, as he says.
The stronger my feelings are for somebody, the more I hide my faults.
Because while someone close to him did leave him, his mother left him when he was very little, leaving an impression on him for his entire life. That permanent idea, if he didn't give his all at all times, and even a sliver of failure is shown to someone, that they'd leave his life. And Kaguya well kinda had enough of this talk and finally ripped that toy out of his arms. And her initial reaction was that of confusion and laughter, just like we all reacted because well, this isn't the Miyuki Shirogane we've come to know. He confessed on the clock tower's balloons flying everywhere for his initial confession. Now he's got this, something that compared to that has so much less effort and so much less finesse. But Kaguya's reaction wasn't making fun of Shirogane, her reaction was a pure happiness. This gift and setting that the Shirogane is so imperfect made Kaguya as happy as she ever was in the story. All she wants is a normal romance that doesn't need all the pizzazz in the world. And this is what finally gets Shirogane to realize that she won't leave him, even if he lets the foot off the gas. Kaguya finally truly won the world of love between these two, and just like her initial victory in the clock tower, she kisses him again, this time without the masks, making this really their first kiss, which is why the movie is titled The First Kiss That Never Ends. This kiss wasn't as flashy or as frisky as their previous one, but was even more meaningful. After their moment, Shirogane tells her one more time that without his unhealthy obsession, they wouldn't be where they are right now. And well, she agrees. Maybe they wouldn't be where they are without both their unhealthy habits. But now, whenever they need to, they can rest with each other, lean on each other, as Kaguya says.
That kind of connection is what being in a relationship is, right?
And just like that, the two we've been waiting for so long to get together have finally really gotten together. No masks, no secrets, truly together after everything. Damn, this was really good, man. So after that whole thing, we got a cute sequence of all of Kaguya's selves getting really excited, and we get a very cute and awkward first date for Kaguya and Yuki. That was very expected, because what first date isn't awkward? Not that I would know, of course. But the movie ends with a screen that says a new game, signifying that this chapter of the War of Love is over. Kaguya and Yuki are together now, but the new game of being together has now begun, and that new game is still very entertaining to follow in the manga. Also, if you're wondering what Kaguya got Miyuki for that Christmas present because it was never shown in the movie, it's this calendar with everything planned out for them on it, which is again very cute. So why do I love this arc so much? Because I really love this story, and this arc made the two we wanted to be a couple for so long get together in the absolute best way possible. Letting them resolve their insecurities together was such a good move because these two had so many unresolved problems, and resolving them like this made it just so heartwarming. It showed that these two really were meant for each other and that they make each other better. And it reminds all of us watching from home what a relationship is really all about. If you can't show your partner the weaknesses of your personality because you're scared of how they react, is that really what you want from a relationship? Feeling like that is perfectly fine, but resolving it is also necessary. You should be able to support and be supported by your partner under any and all circumstances. That's what a true romance looks like, as Kaguya said, being on each other's side no matter what and having their back no matter what. But what the fuck do I know? I'm a single loser who spends his free time yapping about anime. Okay, all I know is this arc's pretty good, guys.